right, so here we are at the Develop It 1 in our 5th week of the semester. And I've been talking about this project pretty much since week 1. And I've gone over these instructions, right? And so I don't think I have to do it in detail again. If you have any questions by now, hopefully you've asked them. Um, so the one thing I wanted to do here is show you, because I know, let me just say this before I get started. I know that this is the most challenging part of this class for some of you, and maybe for many of you. And it's just a part of what you need to learn how to do, which is take a concept, take a calculation, take a problem, take an opportunity in your life, and create code that can either solve or attempt to solve or beginning to solve that issue, calculation, whatever, right? So this is part, a major part of what this discipline is about, is being able to, in our case, learn through section 3 and 4, right? Some fundamental things about JavaScript, the operators, the variables, the functions, much more than this, the if statements, the conditionals, right? And so I want you, this is, again, I've said there's 2 of these you're doing. And I know one person actually said he hated the idea of an app, right? Because everybody overuses that. And that's true. These are really programs. These are not full-blown apps, right? The second one we're doing could become an app if that's what you wanted ultimately. But even it's probably closer to the program, even though it'll be based on the web. But these first couple of Develop It's are really based on just focusing in on the core JavaScript language, which is why I liked, by the way, that Udemy course of Andrew's, is because he really focuses on the core, and then he gets into showing you the browser and the DOM and how to select elements in the page. I mean, there's just such great stuff that I think is great to add after you've learned the language. But having said that, right, so there's 2 applications you want to do, and you can name them whatever you want. Name them, by the way, I shouldn't say whatever you want. It should be related to what the name is. And I've shown this before, but let me flip over to mine, right? So mine, the energy temp, this is what I was talking about last time, right? Where I've converted, I've based on the temperature outside, the temperature inside, and a cost, right? Is I then calculated the kilowatt per hour. And I pass that kilowatt per hour in a string for a weekday or weekend, and then I calculated energy cost, okay, and then I outputted some content. So for this first one, I would want to see at least 2 functions here. Like you might do one function, like I think I saw a couple of people had done a mileage calculator. Well, you can have one function that does mileage, but then do something else with that mileage, right? Maybe look at what then would be a cost of, what's the cost, right? So you have the miles per gallon, so then maybe pass in a per gallon cost and then calculate a total cost or something, right? Something in that, to where it's not that you necessarily have to use the first item you figured out, but have something related. But it would kind of make sense to use whatever you've determined here and then feed it into another function. So I want this to be at least 2 functions here, and then outputting some text, again using this idea of calling functions, right? Passing parameters into that and then returning either numbers or strings into some kind of variable. And then again, so this is the idea of the first one. So I didn't change the second one yet, because the second one, is a little more, I think, a little more challenging, because you want to take the idea and I want you to think like, I have this app, like in the future I've created, right? What is one of the features of this app I would want to create for this next step, or this second program that we're going to create? And I showed you how I created, where I simulated the idea of randomly selecting a kitty, 1 through 6, and this would be like the user selecting 3 cards. They get 6 cards total, right? So as a matter of fact, what I decided to do on this one, since I've already kind of walked you through this code, is show you ultimately what I ended up creating long term for this. So let me switch over real quick and show you. So this is the app I ended up with last year when I created this course. We ended up doing a login. I'm not sure we'll get to that this year, just because I've kind of pulled back on the content a little bit because I think I was there was too much content and not enough creation. So I'm changing to the leaning more of the actual let's get something created, give you more experience there. But here's the idea of if a user, and this is a logged in user already, is playing the game, right? In this case, they're getting 8 cards, right? So in this case, they have 4 kittens, and then you are matching them, right? So if you click on a kitten, it shows you their face, it goes away, right? It should go away. I'm not sure why it's not. That first one, oh, there it goes. Took it a few minutes here. So then there's it. But again, this actually gets more into the browser. The idea is more that, you know, and in this case, what I've decided to focus on for this first part is just the random selection, right? So I did see that one. It's hard to talk and actually play. Oh, there it is, right? So in this game, and again, ultimately, this is the game I created. This is not where you need to be. This is just thinking about an app you'd want to create and then backing that up to some very fundamental component that you would create from that, right? Oh, that one was easy. They color coded. Actually, when I ended up writing this, I wrote it so that the colors were also randomized, so that you could, it wouldn't be easy to play. And then actually, I ended up storing those scores in a Firebase database, so you could see them later. But again, that's like the ultimate. That's the end goal, right? Just take one of the core functionalities you would want, right? And in this case, I have 3 functions, right? So it's not that I necessarily have to have 3, but you want this to represent. And in this case, like I said, this is not the random function I'd want to do. This was just something I was wanting to show as an example of core functionality that I may or may not include in the final project, but at least it gives me the opportunity to work on this so that I can further my development skills by saying, okay, I know I'm going to randomize the cards. I know I'm going to do this. So let me just create that random function here, right? So obviously, because when you're playing the game, you have the ability to see things and respond that way. I couldn't do that, but I could at least, right, get the random kitten, right, get the second random one, and then run a compare, right? So this is similar to what I'd want to see on your second one, right? So is the idea of a bit more involved. You know, I could have, instead of this, I think that did he show switch? If not, but anyway, it's the conditionals here, right? The if else's, and then comparing the users, and then first getting the random kitty by passing, you know, between 1 and 6. I'd want to select that random one. But and I mentioned this last time. I actually got this. This function was inspired by one on Mozilla Network. So if you do that, if you use code outside, make sure you reference that, right? That'll be, and when you come in to see me, so let's actually switch to that. So now, and I've talked about this, right, is the idea is you want to schedule a day with me at least 24 hours ahead of time, right? And submit your code so that I can have a chance to review your code, right? And then tell me when you submit, right? How are you gonna come into an office hour? So when you submit this work, right? So I know you're not seeing it here. You first submit the URL of your develop it, right? So you'll end up, let me move over to here. You'll end up, in this case, giving me a link to this folder that you've pushed to GitHub. And then in that, right, make sure you submit it. You could submit it 24 hours before, before the time, but at least give me a 24 hours heads up before you schedule a meeting to come in and see me, because I want to be able to review your code before you get there, right? And then I tell you about what's going to happen in the code review, right? So you actually, run your code, right? We'll test the different inputs. We'll discuss your code. Submit your UR here at the same time you schedule an appointment with me, right? But again, if you want to do that ahead of time, that's okay too. The item, and I've said this before, but it's worth saying one more time, the item when it's due versus, right, the way this works, the benefit or the suggestion I've been suggesting that you have as far as the workflow goes here is that, right, this item, let me switch to 93 real quick. So this item is going to be due on the 10th. And I'm on Saturday before the start of week 4 where we're having a break here day, but you could schedule a time looking at my office hours anytime here. And then, but in this case, on that Monday that it's due, if you don't see me or have an appointment scheduled with me, I normally head around 1 on Monday, right? So you would need to have given me notice. But if you were not connecting with me before midnight on the 10th, then the code you're submitting can't be changed. It's going to be graded based on what it is. So I've been suggesting, and I'm going to suggest again if possible, that you could be coding up this week, because really learn together was just helping you more clarify what your app was going to be. So hopefully that clarifies. But again, the class chat is a great way to also ask me any questions about that. Sorry. All right. So I think that's it. Like I said, I just hope in this video to give you an idea of, because I know it's not easy. I know this, but it's such an important thing. This is like the most important part of this class, which is why I have made it so much a weight of the class, because learning this part is really learning to program, learning to move from idea to code. And I know it seems like a challenge given the amount of code that we've learned, but truthfully, you have more than enough exposure to this code to be able to start this and to be successful. But that's why the sooner you've worked on this, the better. All right, I think I've harped on this idea. I look forward to meeting each of you, either virtually or in person. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.